Beneath the freezing black sky of the Santa Cruz Desert, the Sinaloa Cartel's armored convoy slips across the Arizona border, bristling with heavy machine guns stacked with tons of fentanyl, and fueled by a brazen plan seize American soil and defy sovereignty at its most vulnerable blind spot. They move like phantoms, convinced they're untouchable. But high above unseen electronic eyes have already tagged every vehicle, every engine pulse, every flicker of heat. A next-generation war machine is ticking down, poised to turn silent dust into a raging firestorm. What happens next? Stay with us, because in under 6 minutes, the entire Sinaloa force is obliterated, and the secret behind the strike will shock you. Hit subscribe to uncover the untold story. At exactly 2:00 a.m. on August 2nd, under the frigid black sky of the Santa Cruz Desert, just a few kilometers north of the Mexican border, an armored convoy of Sinaloa Cartel pickup trucks glides through the yucca like predators holding their breath. 12 vehicles move in a staggered formation, each masked in desert dust, draped with thermal blankets, and fitted with stolen Arizona license plates. No headlights, no electronic emissions, no trace of radio chatter. This is not a routine smuggling run. Inside each truck ride, armed members of the Los Menores faction, outfitted with M4 rifles, semi-automatic pistols, grenades, GPS jammers, and drone signal disruptors. Among the 96 gunmen, at least 30 carry prior convictions for homicide or roles in cross-border kidnappings. With them, more than 3 tons of compressed fentanyl concealed as emergency medical supplies and frozen food shipments. Their objective, Desert 9 checkpoint, a former Border Patrol outpost shuttered in 2023, perched along the southern slope of the Patagonia Plateau. Sinaloa doesn't just intend to slip through, they plan to occupy. The objective, within 18 minutes, the armed unit will secure Desert 9, fortify the perimeter, and open the fastest logistics corridor to Tucson. What they don't realize is that they're already under surveillance. At 55,000 feet, a stealth RQ-180 UAV operated by the U.S. Air Force has been shadowing their formation for nearly 3 minutes. Every heat signature, every infrared pulse from their engines, even the faint dust plume trailing their tires, has been mapped, tagged, and transmitted to the Department of Homeland Security's Operations Center at Fort Huachuca. In just 12 seconds, the battlefield AI flags the movement as a highly coordinated, small-scale armed incursion. And by second 18, a kill box is locked in a lethal corridor stretching 14 kilometers long and 5.6 kilometers wide, sealed by 3 overlapping layers of precision firepower from UAVs, armed helicopters, and the HIMARS system. Yet not a single round is fired. No alarms, no warning tones. Everything remains suspended, because in modern warfare, no one pulls the trigger out of fear. They hold their fire and wait for the precise moment when one decisive strike can end it all. As the last vehicles of the Sinaloa convoy push deeper into the center of the kill box, none of them know they've crossed the point of no return. They see only sand rocks and darkness, but above electronic lenses have locked onto every vehicle, every person. Not to observe, but to annihilate. At 2 hours and 3 minutes in the morning at the Department of Homeland Security's Domestic Response Operations Center in Fort Huachuca, Arizona, the data stream from the RQ-180 is encoded and analyzed in real time by the tactical AI system. The abnormal heat signatures, the disciplined military-style formation, and most telling, the passive jamming signals coming from at least 4 of the 12 lead vehicles erased any doubt within 11 seconds that this was routine smuggling. The system immediately triggered a Level 1 domestic threat classification. Less than 30 seconds later, Priority 6 orders were transmitted through secure channels to the Border Tactical Coordination Command. Operation Fire Echo was officially activated. This was no longer border enforcement. This was a tactical response to an armed assault. The kill box is confirmed in the Santa Cruz Desert, centered at coordinates 31 degrees 29 minutes, 12.7 seconds. North, 110 degrees 43 minutes, 03.2 seconds. West, spanning 14 kilometers east to west and 5.6 kilometers north to south. No civilians are detected within the perimeter. The terrain is flat, dry sand scattered with sparse yucca and low basalt rock, offering clear lines of sight and zero radar obstruction. The kill box is structured in 3 overlapping layers of engagement air-ground and close quarters engineered to neutralize every target within 180 seconds if required. Overhead 6 MQ-9. Reaper UAVs orbit in total silence at 41,000 feet each, armed with 2 GBU-39B small-diameter bombs and an AGM-114R Hellfire missile pre-programmed to lock onto the thermal signature of diesel engines. The Reapers are coordinated out of Elmendorf Air Force Base by a joint CBP and U.S. Air Force team. On the ground, concealed beneath a cliff 11.2 kilometers north of the kill box, a mobile artillery battery stands ready, 3M142. HIMARS launchers primed with M30A1 GMLRS. Rockets fragmentation munitions engineered for wide-area desert saturation strikes. Invisible and silent, the entire desert has transformed into a massive targeting grid. From the west, 2 AH-64E Apache attack helicopters lifted off 8 minutes ago from Davis Monthan Air Force Base, flying nap-of-the-earth radio, silent, threading through the gaps of the Patagonia Mountains. Each aircraft is fully armed with Hydra 70 rockets and 30mm cannon rounds guided by the TADS electronic targeting system. They are less than 3 minutes out, approaching along a southwest enveloping path aimed directly at the Sinaloa Convoy's logistical tail. The final layer of the kill box is the ground close quarters element drawn from 2 CBP BORTAC and SOCOM stations positioned east and southwest of the perimeter. At 2:04 a.m., 2 rapid response teams were deployed, each composed of 12 operators armed with SCAR-H rifles ENS, 13 infrared optics, GPNV-G, 18 night vision goggles, and encrypted short-range comms. Their directive: intercept, neutralize, and capture any survivors emerging from the kill box. Every exit route is locked down. Beneath it all, the dry desert sand lies silent and unaware that in less than 10 minutes it is about to erupt into fire. Inside the operations room, Fire Echo Commander Lieutenant Colonel Blake Garrison stands motionless before a live digital map pulsing with updates. 12 targets advance in disciplined formation at 62 kilometers per hour, holding a precise 18 to 22 meter interval between vehicles' tight train spacing. Wait until they're centered, he says calmly, never taking his eyes off the screen. We don't fire to warn, we fire to finish. At that moment, the Sinaloa Convoy is less than 4 kilometers from the heart of the kill box. Estimated full entry into the strike zone 2:07 a.m. All units are ordered to stand by. No one speaks. No one moves. Inside the kill box, a single miscalculation means detonation. As the 12th vehicle in the Sinaloa Convoy crosses the southern boundary, the UAV control system automatically confirms all targets in zone. The signal is instantly relayed to the Fort Huachuca Command Center through Type 3 encrypted cable. No human authorization is required, the sequence is pre-programmed. At 2:17:08 a.m., just 2 seconds after the final vehicle enters the kill zone, the synchronized strike command is transmitted to every airground and coordinated fire unit at once. No warning, no detectable electronic signature. The sky simply opens into a doorway of death. The first wave begins with a synchronized release of 12 GBU-39B bombs dropped vertically from 41,000 feet. Each 250-pound munition carries a BLU-101 warhead packed with PBXN-109. Explosive guided by a fusion of INS/G, PS, and live engine heat signatures locking onto the 6 lead vehicles as they plunge at nearly Mach 1.5. It takes just 5.7 seconds to reach impact. At 2:17:13 a.m., the first lead vehicle is ripped apart. The first detonation erupts into a fireball nearly 25 meters high, shredding steel and flesh like paper set ablaze in the open desert. Just 0.8 seconds later, the second vehicle explodes, igniting a chain reaction fueled by more than 120 kilograms of C4PKM machine guns and armor-piercing ammunition packed inside. Blast pressure surges past 800 pounds per square inch, enough to pulverize anything within a 12-meter radius. Behind them, the middle vehicles have no time to respond before the second wave arrives. Two AH-64E Apache helicopters sweep in silently from the west. The TAD system acquires targets in 1.2 seconds. The M230 30mm cannon unleashes fire at 625 rounds per minute. In under 6 seconds, 80 armor-piercing rounds rip straight into the cabins of 3 center vehicles, reducing them to twisted, blackened wrecks. One truck detonates into a violent blaze, auxiliary fuel spilling across the sand like liquid fire, incinerating 3 gunmen as they scramble from the wreckage. At the same instant, the third wave ignites from the concealed HIMARS battery in the mountains. 6 M30A, 1 GM-LRS. Rockets roar out from 11.2 kilometers away, skimming low and striking the convoy's rear just 17 seconds after launch. These munitions don't detonate in a traditional blast. They burst overhead, dispersing thousands of razor-sharp tungsten fragments across the kill zone. At a saturation rate of 22,000 tungsten fragments per minute, blanketing nearly 20,000 square meters, the rear of the convoy is struck at 2:17:37 a.m. The last 3 vehicles ignite not from direct blasts or cannon fire, but from razor-edged metal shredding, fuel tanks, cockpits, steel plating, and flesh. One gunman trying to flee is cut down before he even reaches the sand. The Sinaloa formation collapses into chaos. Within the first 31 seconds, 9 of the 12 vehicles are completely obliterated. Flames roar skyward. Thick black smoke coils into the night, casting a blood-red glow across the swirling desert dust. Do you support this war? If yes, comment the number 2. If not, comment the number 5. But the strike doesn't end there. The fourth wave unfolds as the remaining 3 MQ-9 UAVs drop to low-altitude attack profile. Each releases an AGM-114R Hellfire missile, locking onto the 2 vehicles attempting to reverse course. The missiles punch into their undercarriages, triggering the RPG rounds stored in the rear. The blasts hurl the trucks into the air, flipping them before they slam violently back into the sand shock waves, rolling outward to rock formations nearly a kilometer away. By 2:18 a.m., no vehicle is left operational. All that remains is the groan of twisted metal, sporadic secondary detonations, and shadowed figures dragging themselves from the burning wreckage. One man, still gripping a pistol, drags himself behind a yucca bush, trying to disappear into the shadows. Within seconds, a UAV designates him. From 500 feet above, a micro-Viper strike munition is released. Nearly silent, it strikes with surgical precision, neutralizing a 1 square meter patch of desert, nothing more. He does not move again. At 2:18 a.m., the Apache helicopters make a final sweep, delivering controlled bursts at any remaining heat signatures. Within 90 seconds of the initial blast, 18 hostile targets are officially confirmed eliminated. On the monitoring screens inside Fort Huachuca, the entire kill box has turned into a charred scar, 12 fading heat signatures blinking in and out with each secondary detonation. Lieutenant Colonel Garrison studies the digital map in silence. The data confirms 93% of the hostile force neutralized. In under 2 minutes, no distress calls, no organized counteraction, no escape. He keeps his eyes on the display where the kill zone still burns against the vast emptiness of the desert. At 2:23 a.m., the surface temperature remains above 120 degrees Celsius, and thick smoke continues to coil over the sand. 2 ground response teams from CBPP, BORTAC, and SOCOM move in along an east-west axis, closing the final ring around the site. Through infrared goggles, the first visuals emerge: charred bodies scattered across the sand vehicle frames, split in half, and isolated flames reigniting with every surge of hot wind. A total of 89 hostile targets are confirmed KIA on site. Most remains are burned beyond visual identification. Others are heavily fragmented by shrapnel dispersal munitions or 30mm cannon fire, requiring advanced protective gear for recovery and evidence collection. 11 survivors are found in critical condition with compound fractures, third-degree burns, and severe traumatic shock. 2 attempt to draw concealed pistols but are subdued within 9 seconds using rubber rounds and X-26 taser devices, while the others are restrained with their hands bound behind their backs, writhing in the sand, and smoke eyes dazed as if unable to comprehend the destruction around them. At the southern edge of the kill box, 4 remaining gunmen attempt to flee through low rock formations, moving in a Z pattern in a desperate effort to evade UAV detection and break through the perimeter. But the MQ-9 Reaper's optical sensors reacquire their heat signatures from more than 1,500 meters away. At 2:26 a.m., 2 UAVs deploy micro-switchblade 300 munitions 17 seconds apart. The fleeing figures vanish from the tactical map. No one makes it out. By 2:32 a.m., the area is officially declared secure. Evidence recovery teams move in and begin systematic sweeps. Preliminary assessment: 12 armored pickup trucks destroyed, 4 burned down to skeletal frames. Wreckage is scattered across an 800-meter arc, carving a blackened impact field into the desert floor. A total of 3.2 tons of compressed fentanyl is recovered, concealed inside lead-lined double compartments designed to evade detection scans, an amount estimated to be lethal to more than 45 million adults. Seized alongside the narcotics are 15 M4A1 rifles, 6 RPG, 7 launchers, 9 Glock 17 pistols, over 20,000 rounds of ammunition, 2 drone jamming systems, and 4 encrypted military-grade laptops traced to Ukrainian surplus channels believed to have been acquired through the Donbass conflict black market. Forensic analysis of the laptops uncovers detailed resupply schedules, escape corridors, and secondary rendezvous points in Phoenix and Yuma, each plotted with precise GPS coordinates and labeled under code names such as Ruta Sombra and Tunnel 3A. U.S. forces reported 0 casualties. 1 MQ-9 UAV sustained minor damage from a pistol round during a low-altitude pass, impacting its left optical sensor, but it completed the mission and landed safely at Elmendorf. The engagement lasted 5 minutes and 43 seconds from the initial fire command. Target elimination rate 100%, no escapes, no distress transmissions. Not a single cartel round reached U.S. defensive positions. It played out like a passing nightmare, one side fully aware it was at war, the other eliminated before they could effectively bring their weapons to bear. When the Secretary of Homeland Security stepped to the podium and confirmed that the entire Sinaloa armed force had been wiped out in under 6 minutes, a hush fell over the press room. No one doubted that something extraordinary had unfolded in the Arizona desert. This was more than a tactical victory. It was a decisive message from a superpower confronting a new breed of threat, one where the boundary between cartel violence and open warfare has all but disappeared. And the most terrifying element for any adversary isn't the UAVs or the precision-guided munitions, it's the silence. A form of warfare where the opposing force doesn't even realize it's engaged until its entire formation has been reduced to ash. The Santa Cruz kill box is more than a battlefield. It stands as a working blueprint for 21st century Homeland defense doctrine. No waiting for the first shot, no ultimatums, no reactive posture, only decisive resolution. For the first time in modern history, an armed paramilitary unit stepped onto U.S. soil and was erased before it could claim a single inch. They came intending to seize ground, secure infrastructure, and carve out a fentanyl corridor into the heart of the Southwest. Instead, they were erased as if they had never existed. No armored battalions, no roaring fighter squadrons, just UAVs, streams of data, and a calculated, emotionless decision. Even more striking was the seamless coordination Air Force CBP SOCOM and the Department of Homeland Security functioning as a single unified machine. No hesitation, no missteps, no wasted motion. This wasn't merely a demonstration of the kill box's effectiveness, it was proof of a new doctrine in action. It also delivers an unmistakable warning to transnational criminal networks, paramilitary factions, and any power watching from beyond the border. Anyone who believes America is losing its edge should study those 6 minutes carefully. In the scorched wreckage and twisted steel scattered across the burning sand of Santa Cruz lies a message colder than any official statement. The border is no longer merely a line to defend, it is a calibrated defense zone. And once an armed force crosses into it with hostile intent, there may be no path back out. The destruction of the Sinaloa Cartel's armed column in under 6 minutes was more than a tactical success. It stood as a stark demonstration of America's defensive readiness, constant vigilance, and overwhelming deterrent power in an age of unconventional threats. When a criminal network allegedly plots to cross into U.S. territory, occupy a former checkpoint, and carve out a fentanyl corridor on American soil, it ceases to be simple smuggling. It becomes an armed incursion. What makes this account striking, however, is not just the confrontation itself, but the speed, precision, and coordination of the response. No spectacle, no panic, no margin for error. The kill box closed with mechanical precision. MQ-9 Reaper, UAVs overhead Apache helicopters, sweeping in low HIMARS artillery, striking from distance, and elite ground units locking down the perimeter, all synchronized to the second in a 5-minute and 43-second window. All 12 armored vehicles were destroyed. 89 members were reported killed. No confirmed escapes. The surviving gunmen never mounted a meaningful counterattack. Freedom is never automatic. It must be safeguarded, sustained, and defended if it is to endure. For the American people, this serves as a reminder that threats can emerge from unexpected places. Yet with unity, vigilance, and advanced technology, no hostile design is beyond disruption. For policymakers, it underscores the strategic importance of investing in intelligent, integrated defense systems. And for any adversary, the lesson is clear: illusions of power and invulnerability can dissolve in an instant when confronted by coordinated resolve. The central lesson drawn from the Santa Cruz confrontation is clear: freedom is never guaranteed, it endures only through vigilance, preparedness, and credible strength. When an armed criminal group allegedly crossed into U.S. territory, it encountered a modern integrated defense response capable of decisive action in minutes. The precision, coordination of technology, intelligence, and command authority illustrates how contemporary security doctrine operates in an age of unconventional threats. For citizens and leaders alike, the message is straightforward: safeguarding. National security requires sustained investment in advanced capabilities, institutional coordination, and unified resolve. In under 6 minutes, a heavily armed convoy, 12 armored vehicles, 96 gunmen, and tons of fentanyl was neutralized without a single effective shot reaching U.S. defenses, a stark display of technological integration, interagency coordination, and calculated resolve. Yet it leaves a deeper question as the line between organized crime and armed conflict continues to blur. Is overwhelming technology-driven force the only viable answer to emerging threats? What do you think about the kill box doctrine and the message it sends to the world? Share your perspective in the comments, join the conversation, and subscribe for more in-depth, thought-provoking stories.